To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone to our June meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Present.
Mr. Coldiron?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Present.
Then we're going to start with our public hearing from our proposed annual budget for the fiscal year of 2025.
Okay.
Did you have anything you wanted me to show me, or just, because I don't know if you sent us this one.
Let me see if you got the summary sheet. It'll be the very last page. Yeah, comparisons. There you go, right there.
Oh, this here?
Yep. All right, I'll start where he's bringing that up. So I put together the numbers based on a lot of the numbers from last year. Increased it a little bit here and there, 5 to 10%, depending on what it is. But in the general fund, I projected that we're going to get $937,172. On the expenditure side, it will be $1,023,722. That gives us a variance of $86,000 in the negative for a carryover balance of $172,823.22. In the motor vehicle fund, $23,500 in revenues. On the expenditure side, I kept it the same for a carryover balance of $43,592.40. Under the gas tax fund, $192,700 for revenues, same for expenditures, with a carryover balance of $22,646.84. In the road and bridge fund, projected $291,460 on revenues, same for expenditures, with a carryover balance of $78,586.53. In the cemetery fund, $43,500 for revenues and expenditures, for a carryover balance of $67,977.08. In the road levy fund, $249,250 for revenues and expenditures, with a carryover balance of $195,012.04. In the fire levy fund, $2,152,810. On the expenditure side, $1,872,690, with a variance of positive $281.20 for a carryover balance of $1,575,078.62. Under the permanent motor vehicle license, projected $92,900 for revenues and expenditures, with a carryover balance of $1,987.89. And capital projects, I think I increased it 10% because utility bills have been going up so much. So $7,080, same for expenditures, with a carryover balance of $417.27. And then we have a permanent fund that has a balance of $1,253.26 in that. So total revenues, $3.9 million. Under expenditures, $3.7 million. Carryover balance is $2.1 million. So does anybody have any questions?
Can well, I guess our carryover balance can't go negative, but our variance we can spend more money than we bring in for the year.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, so what I did in the general fund is I included the money that we might get, that we're supposed to get, and then included that also in the expenditures column. So that may change the variance.
Kim, if I could make a comment on
Yep.
the fire side. Like we talked about just before the meeting, if the pumper engine is financed, that all changes on those numbers, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I think right now I put in, it will only affect your carryover because I put in $100,000 for debt service for that, but until we know like where we're buying it, how much we're going to pay, that number will change.
But if we finance it over the 10-year term, and that payment's not started till a year after delivery, then the carryover balance will change.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, right now that whole amount is encumbered in the 2024 numbers.
Thank you.
Well, so it's encumbered in the 2024, but it wouldn't show up until it's incurred.
It's like what you do is you have to take it from the total. Say you're carrying over $2 million and you bought that fire truck for what, $855. So it's going to affect your $2 million carryover. Like it'll decrease it by 800,000. But by the time we get to the end of the year, and if we don't expend it, then I'll close the purchase order, and then that frees that $855,000 up, and then we carry debt service for it. But like Kent said, not till next year.
Because they've started construction on that already.
They should start construction on it in about a month to 2 months. It takes about 3 months for completion. We're looking at getting it hopefully in around December.
You want to have any questions about it right now? Because I know we have our meeting next Wednesday to approve it, correct?
Yep.
Okay, we'll go on to our public comments. Andy Rosh's here to talk to us about some financing options for the township. I guess what brings us on is really, I mean, we got two different projects we're talking about.
Yeah.
We most likely will not have total funds available, so then we have to go out for a loan. So that, I don't know if we've done this lately or this process.
Not lately.
So that's what we're. Looks like you did it for quite some time.
Yeah.
So that's where we're
Yeah.
at, and I know one of the first things when we talked to some people at MTA conference, they said,
Yeah.
the first thing I do is look at your bonding and such.
Right. Who else want to copy of it?
It's the fire chief and then Dave.
Hey, thank you.
Well, so I'm not going to hit every single page of this. I don't want to put you to sleep, but there's some information in there to help you maybe understand a little bit more of just, you know, your capabilities and what you are able to do. I talked to Kim today or yesterday about, you know, what we're looking at, what you're looking at and needing to get done. I put some ideas in here, just give you an idea where interest rates are at first. And then we've got some debt examples in the back in terms of what you can do. So the first page there, and I don't know why, we got new presentations, but the page number is up in the middle. So you usually look at it down below the corner, but it's up in the middle. So this first chart here with the green bars going across, it just gives you a frame of reference for where interest rates have been. And you know, we've had a lot of discussion about, you hear the noise, rates are high, they're higher than normal. And you can see there in that dip there in 2020 going all the way down to basically, you know, 2%. And this is your AAA average, sort of what we live by in our industry. It's sort of the stock market end of the day. What is the rate for 20 bonds they pick? And they say, okay, this is sort of where the market's at. And you see back 2020 to 2022, we dropped as low as 2%. They've been jumping around up and down. And right now, honestly, we're starting to see, depends on who you believe, you know, if there's inflation getting in check. You know, now they're talking about 2 rate cuts. And what happens with that in our market is that they start talking about rate cut possibilities, the market gets excited and they start coming down. So the market will move either up or down ahead of Fed action based upon what they see with indicators. And so the last indicators they saw out there were a bit better on the inflationary side. And so hopefully that's a trend that's going to continue, and if it does, then we'll start to see rates come back down again. But this gives you sort of a focus as to going back to 2000 where rates have been. The next chart I think is always a good one to show you. Not that we're going to do a bond here, but to give you some perspective again, we see these gray bars going across here. This is what they call the yield curve, and bonds, you know, traditionally are sold in 1-year increments, and so each individual year typically would have an individual buyer, and they also have an individual interest rate. So shorter on the curve, lower the interest rate traditionally. Going further out, more risk. It's supposed to be a normal curve and higher interest rates. You can see right now all the talk about the inversion of the yield curve, meaning the front end is higher than the back end. What you see there is today's rates, June 1st rates, and they've come down since then, but that's the yield curve today for a AAA rated entity. Just right below the orange there, which is the average. So we've seen, this jump above and below over the last year and a half. The gray bars represent where it's been going back to 1991, as high as 7%, and as low as 1.5%. We were out with clients back in 2020 begging people to borrow money for 30 years at 2%. It was crazy. But again, I think I show you this because it's not like rates are horrible today. They are elevated compared to where they were, but still right in the middle of the range historically. Next couple pages I'm just going to skim through a little bit, and I think that as you look at your projects, obviously you've got the fire truck coming that we'll talk a little bit about and your options there. The larger option with the firehouse, I think you really need to drill down in terms of making sure, obviously it's affordable. And if you can't get there on current revenues, how do you break that down and try to get there on that? Not that you ever want to go out for a tax increase, but I'm going to show you some options as to what that looks like for a $5 million project if you had to go that route, if you couldn't afford and you have to do the project. What does that mean too? So why don't we jump to page 6, because you've got a couple options in front of you, given where your location is. Going back to probably 2010, the market really changed and banks got more aggressive in the marketplace. They didn't buy municipal debt for some reason, but now they're willing to do this. We did a project down in Lawrence County, and typically a bank will not go out longer than 10 or 15 years, but now they're going out 20 years because they see what's happening. Rates are high. Rates are going to start coming down, so they're willing to lock it out that long. Now, talk to me 4 years ago, they weren't willing to go out that long. Some were only 5, some were 10. But right now, depending on whatever you're going to do, you're in a good position because banks think that rates are decreasing, so they're willing to loan. Some of the other programs that are out there, the only one that really would probably apply to you outside of a bank private placement is USDA, and we've done a few of those as well. They are very aggressive with lending money. They're always afraid. Ohio in particular has got a lot of cash, and they're always afraid if Washington D.C. sees their region sitting on cash that they're going to take it away. So we've done school bonds for them, done a few firehouses for them as well. It's a longer process, but it's an option and a cheap option for you, and they'll go out 30 years as well. When it comes to your ability to finance, you have some debt limitations, and I'm not going to go into all that, but you do have the ability to do what you're talking about in the range. And there's different financing options you can take. You can do 1-year notes if you want to just borrow during the construction period, and that's a short-term financing that gets you through construction. Some communities will do that to get through and make sure they've got the final cost before they go to long-term bonds, because last thing you want to do is overissue. You think you need 5, ends up being 4, you've got an extra $1 million sitting around. So some communities will do a 1-year note, wait for the construction period, and then go out long term.
Is there much risk involved in that as far as?
Well, you do open yourself up to market risk. We've had a lot of communities over the last 2 years decide to do notes because they felt like rates were going to come down at some point. Hamilton's a good example of that with their new criminal justice facility. They issued $40 million in notes 2 years in a row, and now we're talking about taking it to long-term bonds because of where the rate market has gone. So there is risk, but it depends, how you manage that. And if we were back in 2020, and you were borrowing 1-year note for 25 basis points, 0.25%, I would have told you go to bonds. It doesn't make any sense for you to take that risk because it's not locked in. And the opposite side of that, bonds, you lock in that rate, nobody can take that away from you. And so you have the ability to refinance that, generally terms are after 8 years. But no matter what else happens, that rate is fixed, no matter, until you decide you want to do something different with it. The other point to that as well is, I think what you have in front of you is a cash flow game. You know, how do you manage your levy cycle, what you've committed to the public, and making sure you stretch that out as long as you can. And it's a lot of communities don't like paying interest, you know, on borrowing, but it's more of a, when do we want to go back to this to the levy, to the voters again? You know, how do you manage that? And that's really, I think, what you need to look at relative to your projects. You can always pay it off earlier. And so if things go well, you come into more money, whatever happens, you do have the ability with a lot of these financings to pay it off as soon as you want. Okay. Let me jump to page 11. So I wanted to give you some options here, just some examples of where rates are at today, and these are conservative, I would say, but just use a $5 million number. And so if you borrowed the $5 million over 10 years at a 4.25% rate, your annual payment's about $624,000 on $5 million. You bump up to 15, your rate's going to go up a little bit higher, so you're at 4.5%, and your annual payment's $465,000 a year. And then you can see for 20 and 30, you go 475 and 5%. You go to 392 and $325,000 a year, based off a $5 million borrowing.
Is that through, you're talking about, that would be through banks?
Those would just be bank examples for you. Now, I don't think we could get a bank deal done at 30 years. You'd probably pay a premium for that if we could find one. But USDA obviously would go out 30 years, and right now, you know, they typically quote that off the 30-year Treasury, which today was a 4.40, and that would be $303,000 a year. USDA has probably the most flexible terms. You know, you can pay them off at any time. They'll let you do that. Any questions on page 11? Oh, by the way, you know what you're talking, I think the pumper, or I'm sorry, the truck you got to finance.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had, I just did some quick math on that. If you're looking at that at $1 million bucks, you're looking at about $124,000 a year over 10 years, right now in today's market. Should include that in here, but I forgot about that. So, don't throw anything at me, but I want to make sure you had the information in front of you.
No.
So if you had to do the firehouse and you couldn't put it within your current budget and you had to go out and borrow for that, voted bonds are a pretty safe way with taxpayers, because when you borrow, when you go out for the levy, you state on the ballot what you're using it for, and that's it. You know, it can be only used for what's stated there, firehouse or equipment, things of that nature. You can't do anything else with it. So it's very secured for the taxpayer. And then in terms of the security to the investor, it's a very secure form of investment for them too, because you're actually levying a tax in the amount needed to pay debt service. What we gave you here on page 12 was just an example for $5 million again. We can change this to whatever way you guys want to see this, but based upon your valuation, and this is actually how the auditor would have to calculate this for the ballot, if they would see it under this calculation. We use 5% for 30 years, just to be safe, and then the way the calculation comes out, it would be 0.77 mils for 30 years. Now, the one thing that will change that is the interest rate over time. So for example, this happens a lot with schools. You go with the ballot, you want to typically use a higher interest rate than what's in the market. And this calculation actually makes it a little bit higher than what's needed when you actually do the debt financing. So in reality, this issue probably wouldn't be using 0.77 mils, it might be using 0.65 or something of that nature. Any questions on page 12? That's the calculation for that issue. Then I tossed in here for you as well just the different options if you wanted to see what 5 million for 10 years would look like. That's 1.6 mils. And then 15 years, it's 1.15. 20 is 1. And then 8 mil, if you went to 8 million, 10 years would be 2.67. 15 is 1.96. And then 20 years would be 1.6. You could go longer for a voted bond. I mean, useful life is, I think, 40 years. So you could go up to probably 35, given the other weighted life of it. This changes once your valuation changes again, so these numbers move around. The inputs that are variable, obviously, are interest rate, the term, and then your valuation. So that's really it on the financing side. The next couple pages are just boring stuff about who we've worked with, so you know some information on us. I was talking to a couple of you, Jeff, I don't think you heard, but I'm born and raised in Butler County, lived out in Ross Township, and then live over in Liberty now. But our firm is a municipal advisory firm. I've been in the business 26 years, and we do not have a stake in the financing. We don't really care what it is. We just look for the best option possible for you. It could be, like I said, bank loan, USDA loan, bonds, whatever.
Anybody got any questions on it?
Let's just hit the bank issue again, because I think it's important for you to note. Just because we go, the process we run is we put together a term sheet, and we lay out the terms. So you might say, hey, Andy, show us 10 and 15 years. And then we put that out to the banking world, and we'll get bids back. You don't have to accept them if you don't like them. And so if you say, hey, we're not really that crazy about these rates, we can reject them all. We can work with them to get different options once the lowest bidder comes in. But a lot of townships, we've been doing a lot of these for townships, actually, and firehouses seems to be like the thing to do these days. But banks are really favorable towards these types of loans.
Does it change anything when you go to USDA? I mean, does it change the process any, or is it pretty much the same?
A little bit. I mean, we had a community that was, because of the budget, or the debt ceiling couldn't get resolved. USDA couldn't loan until that was, the continuing resolution wouldn't fund USDA, which is a weird thing. But so a lot of communities were in limbo. Some of the communities went ahead with their project and did a one-year note, that I explained, and did that to get things going because they had bids in, were worried about construction costs going up more. USDA is, they're a great program, but when you work with them, you should be ready that you're working with a group that hasn't gotten their technology out of the 1975 or 80 range. It's really that bad. I'm not making that up.
You're linked back into the
yeah,
federal
you are.
government.
It's the dark ages. But they do a great job, and it's an easy one for you if you're willing to go through the process. And it's just a little more time-consuming, but it's good.
I mean, what the rates you showed us, well, except for the 10-year. Is it typically cheaper going to USDA?
It typically is, yeah.
I mean, I think, not saying that's the number we go, but that would be one advantage because you would save some money on the interest rate.
Yeah, you would. And the other thing I like about them too is if you can, most communities don't qualify for it. That's but you do, and so the flexibility of the pay down or refinancing. So if rates would happen to go crazy low again, you've got the ability. You can't refinance with them, but there'll be other options out there for you to save money.
Why don't the communities qualify for it?
It just depends where they're located at. They've got population requirements, and so they don't want, for example, a Mason coming in and using their program. It's not designed for that.
Yeah.
So Mason can get capital on their own pretty easily. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You being in finances, do you see the cost of square footage still increasing, possibly coming down?
We're starting to see it get a little bit, especially this region, a little bit more in check. So it's not increasing dramatically anymore. we're doing a firehouse for, it's a joint fire district up in Berkshire Township in Delaware, and they got a different problem, right? Because they're competing against Intel for resources and you know, contractors. So, yeah, that's a problem up there. It's still seeing increases like crazy.
Yeah, I've heard most of the contracts or the bids coming back there are twice what they were expecting.
Yeah, yeah.
And, yeah.
It's a blessing and a curse to be up there right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yep, if you guys see any information in there you want to see tweaked, just let me know and we'll run it back to you. Not a big problem.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
You're welcome.
Andy.
Nice
Thanks
meeting you
for
guys.
coming.
Any other public comments we have right now? All right, I'll go on to the approving minutes. We had minutes from the last two meetings, our regular meeting on the May the 15th, and we also had our special meeting. Do you guys have any questions on those or anything? Any comments? Any motion to approve?
I'll make a motion we accept the minutes as presented. I second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Colvin?
Approve the bills for next month.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Colvin?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes. Approve the road sign checks.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Colvin?
Yeah.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes. Presentation of reports. Yep.
Okay, so as of June 1, in our checking account, we had $1,714,313.65. In our HRA account, we had $8,684.57. In our Star Investment Ohio account, we invest $1,100,000, and the interest that we got in May was $4,933.61. Revenue to date, we've gotten $1,806,657,000.87. And expenditures to date, we spent $1,277,726.16. Under payments in May, we spent $417,145.04. Under major fund balances, under the general fund, our general fund balance is at $426,518.04. Under the road and bridge fund, we're at $148,968.91. Under the road district fund, we have $176,287.37. Under the fire levy fund, we have $1,799,983.79. Total all funds is $2,758,066.33.
For the fire truck, have we encumbered it? Is that included in these numbers? Is that encumbered? in the
It
big
would
numbers?
be under, it's not included in any of these numbers other than what we've appropriated.
Okay.
So we have not expended the money, we've just encumbered it.
So it's already shown taken out of that.
Under the appropriations. So appropriations for 2024, the 2.8 million. So the 855,000 is part of that, but it's not spent, it's just encumbered. So we took up the space for it so that you can't spend it for anything else, but it's still in the bank account.
Any other questions or anything about the report?
Make a motion to accept the fiscal officer's report as presented. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Coldiron?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes. Our fire department.
You've got in front of you the stats for May of 2024. First page here shows 19 fire dispatches and calls. Of those, actually it was a fire safety month. We had no fire calls last month. That's pretty good. I don't know if I've seen that before, but people couldn't drive. We had we had some accidents.
Was it driver safety?
Yeah, we need to have some driver safety, I guess, awareness. Crash location, 7400 block of Germantown Road, 6400 block of Trenton Franklin. Mutual aid to Schurz Road in Wayne Township. State Route 122 near Hill Street. 8700 block of Thomas. State Route 122 at Trenton Franklin. Route 4 in front of Catalina. 7900 block of Thomas. And Trenton Franklin at Brown's Run. Those are crash locations. The zones where the fire calls occurred, 9 of them in the north zone, 8 of them in the middle zone, and 2 in Wayne Township. Next page shows the squad dispatches. 73 calls dispatched. Middle districts 13, north districts 41, south districts 8. We went mutual aid 9 times for EMS service. Germantown 1 time, Wayne Township 6 times, and Trenton 2 times. Any questions on the stats? Got a little bit of information on the fire and EMS side. Training this month was set up by Chief Reynolds. Chief Reynolds organized an excellent extrication training. We had an instructor come down from the Dayton area, conducted 3 hours of excellent extrication training. Took the spreaders to cutters, showed different techniques and training uses for the new tools. Again, it was an excellent training. Next month's training, we're going to do basic and advanced hose line deployment, search and rescue, and pumper and tanker training. It'll be at Station 151. That'll be next month's training. We also next month have the honor of sponsoring the Butler County Trench Rescue Team training. What happens? This team tries to float around the county and go to different townships just to show their equipment, train, and make us aware of what type of equipment and training they can put on. So I was contacted several weeks ago by the team leader and asked if we would sponsor it. I told him we would. We did have a little hiccup as I had talked to Johnny about the placement of this trench rescue, and I'd like to put it on the crest right here of this field. Well, I was told that the township had worked out a deal with the property owner about some hay gathering. I went over and talked to him today. He said, I'm all good. You do what you need to do. It'll just be a small section, and he's good with it, so I'll get with Johnny. Again, the Butler County Trench Rescue Team with surrounding teams will be coming in, and this is occurring on July 11th and July 12th. So Thursday and Friday, they are all-day trainings. Johnny will have a pre-meeting on July 2nd here at the Township Building at 9 a.m. Got an email the other day from Kim with some good news. We got about $85,000 deposited in our account, and this is from the ARPA grant that we received a while back, and we're finally getting the monies on that. That total grant is around $140,000. We should get the $60,000 later on this year, so that was some good news. ARPA money coming from the government. With that said, we have additional grants still out there and additional grants going on. We submitted a grant for $9,600 for a new fire hose for the new engine. We're hoping to get that. We still have a grant out there for $45,000 for the second set of the new extrication tools. That's still out there. We're hoping to get that. I submitted a grant through OTARMA for $1,000 in safety vests for our teams. Dave submitted a safety equipment grant through the Elks for $1,000. We're waiting on that one. We've got a grant out there, pending grant for $4,000 for some new fire pagers also. And then we got approval on several weeks ago for the 5 sets of new gear for $15,000. So that's still going on, and we did get approval on that. For the month of July, it's going to be a very active month for us for Fire EMS. Like I said, July 2nd, we've got the pre-meeting on the trench rescue team. July 10th, we have hose testing. We have to do that annually. That testing will be done at Madison High School, front parking lot. Again, July 11th and 12th, trench rescue. July 17th, band boosters has asked us to join the band boosters in the front parking lot. It's their last day of band practice, and it's usually hot, so we do a little pumper training with the band boosters and let them see how the pumps work. Throw a little water. July 29th is ladder testing, and then Dave is scheduled sometime in August pump testing. It's just all these testings we have to get done for all of our equipment, and it's a requirement that we have to do. It's just a liability thing, and I'm glad we do it. Last thing I have is June 22nd, movies in the park, and we're going to attempt to get some personnel up here to help out Dave with that event. Any questions?
You might need to do host testing that night. Spray some water.
Spray some water?
It's going to be hot.
I would say the field's probably going to be, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Kind of douse that a little bit, make the ground not so pokey.
Hey, Chief,
Yeah.
in July, I think they're telling us the 15th, but I get with you. Safe Haven Farms is having farm days. One of the days, I think they said the 15th, but I can't believe it's going to be on Monday. But they would like us to provide a truck and maybe a couple personnel for a touch a truck out there. That's Safe Haven Farms.
Yep.
Is that daytime, nighttime? Do you know times?
I can get that to you as soon as I find out.
Just let Chief know.
Okay.
He can relay it to us.
Yeah.
We'll get the squad crew out there.
Yeah, it might be a good opportunity. I know you guys, I don't know how often you've dealt with autistic.
Yeah, we'll get the squad out there. They're pretty
Okay.
familiar with it though.
Yeah, okay, okay.
But they're good people out there.
All right,
Got
I'll
decent
get you a
runs.
specific date and times and everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Chief?
That's all I got. I think it was enough.
There's something interesting. I just got back from the NFPA conference and went to a couple classes on car batteries and how they're trying to do it. They're doing a lot of research on it. The only thing they can tell you right now is they're going to burn, and that's about it. They have all sorts of research. They were showing this one guy was marketing this goo you put over top of it. But he only showed it for 7 minutes after he applied the glue. And the thing that gets me is they showed, they said it's on fire, and they had the guy come out and spray it right then. I'm like, we're not gonna get to that car for 20 minutes. So, by that time, anything they show, the car's fully engulfed in flames. And what the problem they're having now is they actually had this over in England in a airport parking lot. They had one car caught on fire, it caught the next car on fire, and it just
Yeah.
it avalanched through there, and actually it collapsed the parking garage. So
Well, if it caught on fire and they let it burn in 20 minutes first, that wouldn't be a very good sales pitch for
no,
them.
We've seen numerous companies say, use my product. I don't know if any of them work 100%. When we was over at FDIC, there was multiple companies that sold these gadgets that go underneath the car, and sprays water. There's, we've got the blankets. They're saying now, you could try to dump them into a dumpster and put sand in them.
they're trying to do that in Europe right now. They show this big roll off. They show, I guess they'd say they bring it to the scene and they get it and lift it and submerge it. You're going, well, there's a lot of equipment there. Two, the manpower required to do that. I'm like, I don't think they're.
Get ready.
I don't think I wanted to ask him, have you thought about volunteer fire departments and all this you're talking about, and they're responding, and I just don't see how it correlates. Maybe if you're in a city setting, but still, that's going to be a lot of outlay of equipment and tied up people, and
just find some ponds around here and just drag them to the ponds and put them inside the ponds.
Well, they are also talking about the custody of it, because they said, well, I don't know if we've had any around here, but you have the car on site, you might get it stopped. You take it to, you know, the guy coming in to tow it will get it, well, it'll catch on fire again on this truck, or catch on fire in the record. Yeah. So they're talking about, people need to understand, okay, what you're getting when you get this, it's not just a car that's fired out, it's a chain of custody, what they called it. And they're recommending in the impound lots and such, that you have 50 foot of separation and barriers around these cars. And again, I'm going, I don't think they've been to these impound lots, because these guys are looking at space. But it is something interesting, they put it in that conference. Our road crew.
We've been staying caught up on grass. Looks like it's finally slowed down for us this week. Been doing a lot of ditch work. Here's a ditch that resident called complaining that their ditch laid wet. They couldn't mow it in the spring until usually July or August. So we went out, cleaned it out for them. Got a nice little flow line back in place. And then Monday, I'm off this week, but Zach sent me these pictures where they lined it with some type of tarping. And then that's the outlet of their driveway. So you can see that tarp's not all the way to the bottom. So if they get a heavy rain and that water gets underneath and on top, it's going to go down and plug the neighbor's pipe up. And they just created a mess. So I'm going to have to address that Monday when I come back, let them know they can't obstruct the flow line in any way. We had the cemeteries, everything looked good for Memorial Day. We set some flowers out at the signs, mulched a little bit, just to make it look good for that weekend, and had quite a few compliments. Everybody's pleased with the way everything worked and the way the mowers are still making things look good. That's really about it. You know, we got discussions later, but we did clean up around the mulch bed, get ready for the windows. We got rid of all those scroungy looking rose bushes and a couple of those big boxwoods that was taking over the flagpoles. We was going to do some work after the windows were done, but then with possible with the money coming in for the fire department, me and Kent agreed that we won't get too carried away with the mulch bed right now out front. We'll see where plans go there, but we'll at least put some new mulch down here as soon as the windows are done. Make it look good until then. That's all I got for now.
Okay. Our next item's old business. We did get the return notice that the certified letter was signed by Energy Harbor, so they have received our notification. And I think that is it June of next year is actually when it's.
Yeah.
So we got that ahead of time. So probably toward the end of this year, we'll start talking to different contractors and seeing what kind of service we can get. I'm not sure until the election's over. I'm not sure everybody's gonna be signing any agreements, but we'll have to see where that goes. New business. Approved to send certified letter to 6190 Joanne Lane regarding noxious weeds.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Coldiron?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes. Next item to approve the Medi-Count contract EMS billing. This will be replacing Change Healthcare, which was hacked. And it says we've been losing money since. Medi-Count's proposed fee for net collections is 6%, which is what we currently pay. There's an application fee from Medicare, which will be deducted from our billing money. Estimate is around $700.
I've got Chief Peters here and Lieutenant Chappelle. They know more about the billing than I do. So if you have any questions, if they've anything to add to that, Chief.
And so, long story short, Change Healthcare got hacked back in February, and since then they've quit billing for EMS runs while they try to sort this out. Well, they've also sent letters to several of our neighbors terminating contracts with them. We have not got a letter yet, so I'm telling them bye before they can tell us bye. It won't cost us anything out of pocket, like any more than what we're currently paying, other than the application fee, which is $700, which is a heck of a lot less than what we're losing right now. So they haven't billed since
February 19th, we've not collected any EMS
Yeah.
billing.
Are they going out of business or what's?
They went under and another company bought them, but they're not big enough to support, and they eliminated a whole bunch of positions. So like, we don't even have a contact person. They have a random email, you email that, and then someone gets back to you within 2 weeks. So it's not great, but the new company will be able to back bill for 90 days. So any money that we didn't collect, they'll be able to go back from the moment we confirm that we're switching to them. They can back bill 90 days, but Medicaid, Medicare doesn't allow us to go beyond 90 days in the rear.
So they fired our account manager and didn't tell us. So after about 2 months trying to get in contact with her, we finally got mad and called somebody else, and they're like, "Oh, she doesn't work here anymore." I'm like, well, that'd have been nice to know.
So there's a possibility we will lose.
So the faster we can get this approved, the
Yeah.
better, which I'm sure won't be an issue tonight, but they can't, we're hoping, so her husband, Lieutenant Chappelle, down at Trenton, City of Trenton's switching over to them, and they were able to bill back 90 days. So the faster we can get it approved, I'm hoping they can do the same for us. They can go back 90 days from when we get the contract squared away and bill for them. So we're going to lose some money, unfortunately, but hopefully we can limit the amount that we lose.
And there's like a 1 to 2 week transition. So they have to get all of our accounts set up. We have to give them access to the electronic PCR, so the patient care reports that we use. They will also meet with me and show me exactly what needs to be documented in the patient care report for their standard to make sure that we are collecting the most amount from Medicare and Medicaid that we can. They also stated that they should be able to, they tend to be able to collect more from Medicare and Medicaid than the current company we're using. And then there's some other things that they bill for that our current company does not bill for. So that should hopefully increase what we're getting from insurance companies without us billing the patient.
Is this something that we can, or we should go back to the county prosecutor and see if they can?
That's what exactly was running through my mind.
So there was a letter that got sent out, I'm not sure who got it, but it said basically, if you're a department that lost funds, there's something that we can fill out, but we don't know what we lost yet.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know when they were gonna start billing again, we didn't know how far back they could go, if there would be an extension that they could go back beyond 90 days. And unfortunately, because the company's been bought out and it's pretty minimally responsive, we're not getting answers.
Ken emailed me and Chief the other day. We got a couple deposits. They were very minimal. We don't even know when those runs, what runs they are, when they occurred. I mean, they could have been from last year. It just says they deposit out. You remember what it was off the top of your head?
There was 3 deposits. One was like for 4,000, one was like 500, another one was like for a couple, like 1,400. But it just shows me an amount. It doesn't tell me any
Right.
detail or
Right.
anything.
And we never know, like, on the fire department end, we don't know when money comes in. We don't know who paid a bill. We don't even know what the billing company bills for our transports. And we don't want to know. We, as a team in the department, we don't want anyone doing anything to up bill or down bill, so we don't know any of that. The third party company handles all of it.
Well, I don't think, at least I don't have any problem changing to this new provider either. I just, is that something, Dave, you can contact the prosecutor's office and see if we can go back or take some kind of, he can write a letter or go back and take action on them somehow?
Probably with the wording would probably be one of them.
And we'll have to find out how far back, you say they go back 90 days.
When the new company starts, they can go back 90 days from when we initiate with them.
Okay.
Some private insurance may allow for you to bill beyond 90 days. I don't know which ones do and which ones don't, but Medicare, Medicaid usually sets the rules and it's 90 days for them.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Coldiron?
Yes.
To approve the, or approve the increase for the appropriations, and that's listed.
Yeah, so we had a couple funds where we had to increase the appropriations. In the general fund, we had to increase purchase services. So the total amount for purchase services goes to $189,944, and the total amount for the general fund will go to $397,257.78. In the road and bridge fund, we had to increase employee benefits $40,055.83 up to, this is like what it got increased to. And then also capital outlay went to $14,000, so for the total of $291,264.83. In the cemetery, the capital was increased to $61,450. The total goes up to $132,175. In the road levy fund, the capital outlay was increased to $4,895. So that increased the total amount to $211,179.17. And the fire levy, under purchase services, it was increased to $6.14. Under supplies and materials, it was increased to $112,406. And under capital outlay, it was increased to $255,113.74, for a total of $1,476,221.88. So total all funds is $2,810,535.66.
Anyone have any questions about it?
There's this increase for various bills.
I make a motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Coldiron?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Approve the new fireman for station 151, William Billy Allman, fire level 2 certified, pending paperwork.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Coldiron?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes. Before we leave that, do we need to add for this grant writing, what, we need to add
Okay.
item for discussion of this?
Yes, please.
Because it's not on the agenda right now.
I make a motion to add it to the agenda.
Second.
A motion to add item 8E, discussion of the grant writing service.
I'm sorry. Yeah, what was that?
What's that?
What was that?
We're adding 8E, grant writing service.
Oh, okay.
Did you guys have any questions about it or anything, or?
Nope. Read it.
Cause Kent, you said this was his standard form and standard,
It's a standard contract. Kim had asked for a copy of the contract, and either him or me could locate it.
Yeah.
So he generated that contract to get it on file. It's a standard contract that he uses for other entities also, and it's a standard fee of the 5%.
does this, cause I think you said part we're getting now and part we get later in the year?
So on that ARPA grant, we've got a total of approximately 140,000. We just received approximately 85,000 approximately, and his fee is 5%. So 85,000 and only paying 5,000, I'll do that all day long. And then we have more of it coming in supposedly at the end of the year through the ARPA.
You got questions or comments about it?
I'm not sure what the fee is. We really haven't had anybody, we were doing all the grants ourselves.
As I say, the last experience I think we had was this when,
Todd Farmer.
Todd Farler did it as part of his compensation.
I think it's a bit high, it's a bit high.
Yeah, he wasn't getting 5%. I thought we were actually giving him 1 or 2%, like 1%.
Where I work, my other place, we pay a flat fee. We don't pay percentages.
Will say he does an excellent job for us. He's been putting in the last 12 months, he's been putting in a lot of grants. He's been getting a lot of grants for surrounding departments.
Because well, we've already gotten part of this grant, right? So he would be getting part for that.
He just submitted a bill for just under $5,000 for the part of the $85,000 that we just received.
Is it? Probably guys, this is already on work already done.
Did he do that work for us?
No. He performed the work.
Well, we gotta pay him probably for the work he's done, but we're gonna need to take a step back and see if we can get a better deal with this. I mean, we gotta meet our obligations, but.
If you'd like, we can table it, and I'll get more information back next month's meeting.
That would be all right.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yep.
All right. Our discussion items. The aggregation moving forward. Well, Tim Abbott, he's with
Energy Alliances.
Energy Alliances.
Yeah.
He's been checking also to see if we, well, if we need anything from him. I don't think, like I said, probably later this year we'll probably start reaching out to different companies, see who's available.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll wanna come in and make a presentation.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole aggregation moving forward, I think we wanna keep it. I don't think there's any reason to stop it. We're giving good rates for everybody.
Yeah.
There's some misunderstandings on it. I know I've talked to several people about how it worked, and some people weren't happy about it, and it's like, well, you know, this was voted on by the community. It's not something that necessarily that the trustees decided. We decided to put it on a ballot, but the community decided to move forward with it. Any other comments or questions?
Nope. I'm glad we're doing this. Yep. All right. Good.
Next item is a resolution for no parking signs at the dead end of Crest, west side of Mont, and no parking signs for Twin Oaks as well. Yeah, I went out and talked to everybody around there. I know for Twin Oaks, the person they're having problems with, I think we talked to everybody on the south of him, and nobody had any problems with anybody parking on the street. They said occasionally they would do it and have parties, or they had something delivered or something like that. Nobody was really in favor of it. And the guy that they had complaints with, he just got his driveway paved, so I think that might have been what was causing him to park out there.
I know that Dolly, he'd been parking there for about a year, and sometimes, you know, I had Bob that's on the fire department, he lives in the cul-de-sac, he said sometimes he parks his rollback out there.
Yeah, we talked about that day. Yes.
But Bob wasn't
That's-
for it either. He was like, I don't want it.
So that's why it was a draft and for you guys to
Oh, no,
discuss,
no.
so
What,
entirely up to you.
so who's complaining about this?
I
It
took
had
a
to be
call.
somebody, right?
Yeah, I took a call and I didn't get their name, but they said, you know, are we allowed to park on the street? We got this guy here parking all the time.
Well, I mean, here's the way I filled out complaints. We need to get a name.
I know,
An
and
address,
I
I mean,
neglected on that. That was my problem.
No random just call in there. I mean,
But and then, you know, as far as plowing snow too, being out there in the winter, you know, Roy made a comment, said,
Yeah.
you know, you got a car coming and that truck's there. But
I mean, I understand that too, but we
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
we need a name with a.
and then on the
complaint.
other one, I think Dave took a call on that one. It was the sheriff's office that called or something on Crest.
I'm sorry.
On Crest Drive, didn't you get a call on that one? The sheriff's
Yes,
office or somebody?
I reached out and got a second opinion, and basically I started the process with a parking complaint with the sheriff's office, and they went out and did their investigation.
Okay.
Yeah, because we went out and talked to them, and the car's off the road now, which it's in the front yard, okay, but the boat's still sitting there, and my understanding, I don't think it's got a tag on it. So my understanding is, if we get a hold of the sheriff, we could have that towed. Is that correct?
They have to tag it, and then I believe it's 24 hours, 10 or 48.
It's one of those.
Yeah, and the boat's still there.
Oh yeah, it's still there. We went here for this.
Yeah.
And we had a complaint and from several residents in, what was the area over there?
Otter Creek.
Otter Creek. There was a boat there. And we sent the sheriff's deputy, we were able to tag it. He talked to the people that complained a little bit, and then the guy eventually moved it.
Yes.
Because I talked to a lot of people there on Crest, and they weren't in favor of it either. They said the same thing. From time to time, we park out on the road, parties, or we'll have some delivered or something like that. So that's what I was just kind of looking at, going, I don't know that the people who live on these roads are in favor of these.
Well, if they're not, again, I mean, if there's a complaint, we have to address the complaint, but there's gotta be a name.
I think on Crest, if the boat was moved, everything would be fine.
I was gonna go talk to them, but the dog there at the house is rather large, and I didn't feel like discussing it with them.
We talked to them the other day,
I
and
talked
they
to them
promised
the
it
other
would be
day.
gone.
Yeah,
Oh.
and that's where they moved the car.
I did follow up with the complaint, and the Jeep was noted no plates on the vehicle. So I called the sheriff's office. I'm not able to tell if the plates were on the trailer and the boat.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
able
not
to see
there.
that.
It's not tagged.
So we probably need to take care of that. I think we can just get the sheriff to take care of that. And can you call me
Sure.
tomorrow? I mean, that's my feeling with it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Sounds good.
I can tell you what I did a couple years ago. I had a neighbor who was parking a bunch of cars up near the road in their front yard. And I told Jim Fox about it when he was still at Butler County. He sent him a letter, certified and regular, 30 days. Came out 30 days later, they didn't sign the certified, of course. He came out, left a note on the door, took pictures of the cars that were there that didn't have any tags on or anything. Sent him another letter. I happened to be out of town at the time, and my neighbor across the street texted me and said, the neighbors are moving all their junk. And this was like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. They were doing it, and then when I got back into town, Jim Fox called me and told me they'd be out by the end of the month. They were renters, but they were parking cars literally almost at the road.
Yeah, but the car there had temporary tags that were expired.
But we were told that she just ran out of gas. the other day.
Yeah.
But I
Which is
believe
driving
the,
illegally,
I believe
so
the
either way,
zoning
it's not
department though
happening.
can help you with
But-
that.
What's that?
You might be able to contact Uche
Yeah.
at the zoning department, he might be able to help you
Yeah,
with getting rid of the boat and the car that are parked for them
yeah, we,
on a road instead.
yeah.
Like that boat we had issues with, they were gonna, the sheriff's department was gonna tow it. They put in, tagged it, said we're coming to get it, like, and the day before they were coming to get it, it was moved.
But everybody was like, hey, sometimes we park, sometimes we have guests that park, and.
Yeah, as long as it's temporary.
Freedom, love, and let us do what we
Yeah,
want.
As long as it's temporary, it's
It
fine.
doesn't need to sit there, continue.
But, a boat sitting there,
Yeah,
that's
it
not
should be
good.
down there. Next item is our special meeting announcement for June 26th, which is next Wednesday at 6 p.m. at the Township Building, and that's our tax meeting. So we'll be voting on the tax budget that we just was introduced tonight.
Did you guys still want to keep it at that date and time, or do we need to change it?
We change dates.
You let me know.
It's
Thomas is
because
going,
of him.
yeah.
It's because of him.
Might want to change it to the next day.
Is there any issue changing it to the Thursday?
I don't have an issue with it. 27th?
You haven't?
That's fine.
So we will change that to June 27th, Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Township Building. Next item is the,
Jeff, I have a question. Just go back one. I didn't know what the, what you, agreed with Twin Oaks on the no parking.
we're not gonna.
Okay.
Item D is the old Mount Pleasant Cemetery. Finding the entire cemetery belongs to the Mount Pleasant Cemetery Association. Possibility of sending a letter to their association for terminating service. I think we do have that letter.
So what I discovered, we was actually on the auditor's website last week looking at boundaries for Elk Creek Cemetery, because I had Roy going out clearing some brush. We needed to know where our property line was. There was quite a few stones that had just been neglected, and trees were overgrown and covering up, and couldn't see them. So we found the boundaries, got that figured out, and my curiosity struck, so I want to check, all the other cemeteries. So I came to Mount Pleasant, and when I first started, I always thought it was kind of weird that we mowed this old section of their cemetery. And I, asked Todd, and he said, well, it's just, we did that for years. We mow the old section. They take care of the newer cemetery, do the, sell the graves, mow the grass, and do the burying. And then the church, the way I took it, someone else mowed the church. So, okay, just let it go. So then when I got to looking on the auditor's website and realized there's two parcels, and I clicked on, whose name they're in. It came back to Mount Pleasant Cemetery Association on both parcels. Madison Township was nowhere to be found on these, on the auditor's website on those two parcels. So I took it a step further. I went down to the auditor's office Friday to hear it from them. Hey, are these ours? Or are they Mount Pleasant's? Whose are they? So the lady there at the front desk, she pulled them up, and she said in 2001, for whatever reason, Mount Pleasant Association came to them, or to the recorder, and requested a new deed be reissued, but right back into their name. She said, I don't know why they did that, but it was their name previously from the 1800s. They just got a 2001, a deed redone in 2001, and it stayed in their name. Nothing else changed. That was for the 1 acre. There's 1 acre and 2.5 acres. So the 1 acre has the church and the old section of the cemetery. So she said to find the other deed of the newer section, I had to go to the recorder's office. So I went down there, and they found it in the old book. It was from 1888, 2.5 acres, and that also is in Mount Pleasant Cemetery Association's name. So I went from there and called Ohio Department of Commerce, which that's the seminar that me and Jeannie was in up at OTA. They're in charge of cemetery registering and complaints. A cemetery that's 25 years newer has to be registered in Ohio. Anything older that's older or inactive, they don't register. His opinion was, he said this happens a lot. He said the most recent case they had was there was Ohio Township maintaining the cemetery, doing burying, selling the graves. It was on the same lot as a church. The church was 100% active, had a church board. Somebody, like me, came across this, brought it to the attention. their county prosecutor told them you need to send a letter, tell them you're vacating all, ownership of this because it's not yours, it's the church. So the church had to take over the cemetery and do, the burying and all that. So he advised me to get a hold of our prosecutor, so I did, and Kevin Garrity agreed with what, I'd found and presented. He said, that's not your cemetery, as far as liability, you need to send him a letter and let them know. So I had called the president last week to see, how did we ever get involved? How did Madison Township get involved in this? He said, well, the endowment fund. Aren't you getting money from that? I said, no. I said, our past fiscal officer, I checked with him, he said, we've never received anything. And the endowment fund goes in place when there's a cemetery association and a church with a cemetery. In the beginning, you got to put $50,000 in there, and that's for if they ever disband, that money builds up. You guys just did it with Miltonville.
Yeah.
Tim wasn't here, but Brian and Jeff knows how all that works. So I explained to him, I said, you're correct, but at the same time, that's when you are not in business anymore. You guys still active? Yeah, we're still in business. I said, well, this is on your property. And the only thing I can come up with is years ago, this board and that board got together and said, well, this section's inactive. That in Ohio, that goes back to the township or city it's in. Well, that's just a section. That's not, a complete sim. That's their old section, like we have old sections and new sections. So the bottom line is, Kevin Garrity said that is their property and we are not to be maintaining it. So I called him back yesterday, the president, and he's not happy, but the law's the law. So.
Yeah.
He wanted to see everything in black and white, which when we send the letter, I'll show him copies of the deeds, transcript from the prosecutor's office.
Well, we got the signed letter here, so. Do
Yeah.
you want, no, you need a copy.
I just need a copy of it.
Okay. Do you want a copy of it, or do you want?
Yeah, we'll definitely need a copy here. I'm gonna keep all this in a file for down the road.
Okay.
So with that one, that one is all I had with that. The other one was Pleasant Hill. When I clicked on that, it's still in the original Methodist church name from the 1830s and 1840s. There's 2 parcels there. So Sam at the auditor's office said, what we need to do there is I got to call her back. And with me being off this week, I put this one wasn't a priority. I put it on the back burner. But I'm going to call her, and she'll walk me through the steps to have that cemetery officially put in our name on the deed. So, and that one was just an oversight, years ago when the township inherited that, probably 80, whenever the church disbanded, 80 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
That's all I got on it.
Our next item is on 5109 Eck Road. I guess that you got some complaints on that.
I believe I invited Shane, the owner of Neutralon, to come in and give a breakdown, but he did not show up. So right now, anyways, we could table it. I spoke to the power of attorney from the owner of Eck Road, 5109 Eck Road, today. I've spoken to her a couple of times, and she's got a concern about the billing from Neutralon, and I advised her that that would have to come from Neutralon owner to break it down for her. And basically we're okay at this point in time, especially for the trustee side, the township side of it. I've got everything documented if it ever moves forward. But it's a touchy situation because of the POA lives in Texas, and she has no idea what we've been going through. But then again, like I said, Neutralon and the POA will have to work that out together. And she advises me because she's still working on it. That's fine. I agree. I told her I understand her opinion and her concerns. And then, like I said, Shane told me a little bit about the billing, and then we could table that if it ever comes up again, and anything moves forward. That I can bring up to the agenda next time if it's even needed. So right now I have everything in order for us, if anything comes about.
Okay. Next item is talking about the movie Saturday night. They could use some help setting up, breaking it down.
Yeah, as of right now, let's get a couple firefighters, and I've only got 3 of us, 2 road and me. That's it.
Pending calls that night, we'll have the squad crew there, and Thomas is getting a couple guys together to bring a truck up. But if we have a call or something, then they'll be tied up till they get back.
Well, we don't have fires anymore, we just have wrecks.
Yeah. Till Saturday.
Our next item said a citizen was asking about tornado sirens from Madison Township. I guess they have information from Jim Bowen, the Mercy Association director. He said it'd be about $40,000 per siren to put in.
Yeah, we checked on this several years ago. At that time, they were 35,000.
Well, to me,
They've gone up in price.
I don't know if we could go after it unless we can get a grant or something somewhere.
Yeah, I asked about a grant at that time when we had the tornado a couple years ago. We had the follow-up meeting down to Mercy Services down in Hamilton, and I asked about grants then, and they said there weren't any available at that time. So.
Right where I live, we got sirens in Gratis and West Elton, a couple in the township, and my phone alerts 3, 4, 5 minutes sometimes for the sirens to get alerted.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get those phone alerts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'd also like to chime in, those sirens are designed to warn people who are outside.
Right, not inside.
So they're
It's
not
always a big
designed to, if
misconception.
you're
Yeah.
sitting in your living room with your air conditioning, your window air conditioning unit running, and your TV cranked up, well, of course they're not gonna hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can hear, I've heard the sirens, now, I don't know if it's probably Trenton or Middletown, who knows, but I've been outside at the squad building under the tornado warning and hear the sirens, whether they're testing them or we got a weather event, and I can hear it, but, I mean, you're not gonna hear it from inside the building, but that's not what they're designed for, so.
That was something we learned that when the National Weather Service came through, what they can do is if they think there's a tornado or an area, they can actually circle it on their screen or whatever, and it'll alert every phone in that area they circle, which, I mean, that's good use of technology.
Yeah, and they're sure not gonna wake you up in the middle of the night when you're asleep, you know what I mean? So your
Yeah.
best bet's to either have a weather radio or have the app on your phone.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I'm not opposed to a tornado siren, but these folks are expecting, you know, they have unrealistic expectations from them. That's just not how it works.
Next item is about our park plans that were started pre-COVID. We had Madison Sports Club, the MMAA, and Safe Soccer. Alex Red sent copies of the report and workup. He wasn't able to attend. I know you heard this evening.
Jason Ward,
Yeah.
he's here, and I talked to Jason on the phone and told him I'll put this out on a discussion item, but I think everybody wants to get this started back up.
Yeah.
We started this before COVID, and then COVID shut it down pretty much. So, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, so I mean, where we're at, I'm sure everybody in this room is familiar with the setup up at the school. So we are just shy of 300 kids in the program this year. We do know, surrounding communities, I know Edgewood, I don't want to say struggling, or Trenton, or however you want to label it, but as far as rec leagues, they're pretty much obsolete in Trenton now. So I'm getting phone calls. We've had several phone calls after our registration where, hey, can we get, these 6, 7 boys in a by that time? So we know the growth is there in the program, youth specifically. I know once we get older it's different, but we know we're going to have more kids coming into the program year over year. With that, we got really 3 fields that are MSCs. So it's kind of, we have to play chess. We can't ever have a checkers day. We got to play chess every day with our schedule, right? So with that, parking's very limited at the school, and it's not that the school isn't willing to help us, or it's just the real estate's not there at the school. It's just not there. So, I took over after Mr. Webb, Alex Webb. I'm sure everybody's familiar with him. So I've talked with him a lot about this. I've talked to other people on the board that were part of both boards, and if the time is right and it's something we can do, I think there's going to be tremendous benefits to not just the way the park looks, but park or community involvement at the park. We're talking our opening day, which was wildly successful this year. We had at least over 1,000 people at that school on April 27th. And we had a flyover and, you know, all this fun stuff. So we got a great board in place now. We did before, but we got kind of the younger generation of parents coming through, right? You know, we still got a lot of energy and all that fun stuff. So we're like, okay, and, you know, talk to Mr. McGuire and, you know, we're working on a quarterly meeting each quarter. The Say Soccer board, my board, and MYA board are syncing up. It's always kind of been siloed, right? Where it's like, we do things our way, they do things their way. No, everybody's gonna be a little bit different, but we need to work together, you know, and that's extending, hey, how can I help football and concessions? How can I help you guys during your season? How can you help us during our season? And supporting each other, because it's all the same kids. So the growth need is there. I really want to see that park full as much as possible. So I think anybody in this room or in this community would want is the park being used, right? That's what it's there for. So, you know, anything I can do, I am, you know, I'll grab a shovel, I'll grab a dozer, whatever you need me to do, and we'll get to work. So I am more than excited to have a conversation about this. So.
Yeah, we need a couple things to occur, and then we'll be ready to go. So.
Yeah. When do you have you say you have quarterly meetings?
Yeah, so we were supposed to have one Sunday. Due to my oversight, I didn't realize it was Father's Day. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll push it, guys. So we're going to set up either, not this weekend because we got end of season tournament, but the next week we're going to get together and everybody sit down and just talk, you know, does soccer really need this many fields? You know, and come together with a plan that everybody, as far as the youth athletics is concerned in this community, that needs outdoor space, right? Like, you know, it's not like we're saying basketball, you guys are on your own. It's a little bit different, right? So make sure we're all on the same page, because that's what we want moving forward and to pass on to the future generation of boards is we work together. We don't just do our own thing and forget those guys, because it's all about the kids, which is what we want to do.
I think I am, and I think the other two guys here are really have a positive attitude towards something like that.
Yeah.
They really want to do, because like I said before, I think 2019 when we got this started.
We designated you to be the liaison.
Yeah, I think you did.
I don't think you were there for the meeting, but we designated you.
Yeah, I think you did. So if you know, I don't mind coming to a quarterly meeting or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be excellent.
Maybe, you know, have some years.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's going to be on township property, so you're going to have to have involvement in the township one way or another. So.
Well, I will reach back out after we tighten up some date and time, excuse me, and we'll go from there.
You got my contact information now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas, for reminding me. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for your work. I mean, you can see that's a well-run program.
Oh, yeah, it is.
A lot of people involved, a lot of kids involved.
It's, you know, when they asked for, you know, parent, you know, if anybody was interested in coming on the board, I thought I was signing up to work in the concession stand and cut some grass. And then Alex kind of pulled me in a dark room. He said, hey, what do you think about running the whole thing, Jason? I was like, well, okay, you know, what am I signing up for? Well, not my problem. He kicked me out the door.
One day you think you're making nachos, and the next day you're dealing with all that.
But it's been great. I've enjoyed it. I plan on doing it for years to come, so I really enjoy it. So.
Good. Thank you, Jason.
So, thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next item is Metro Parks. Butler County is bringing in Jamie, I'm terrible name, Savage from 110% Consulting to Southwest Ohio for her financial certification, sustainability certification program.
That just came to me, so I was just giving you the information so you can see it.
Is that something, I'm not sure, I know it said something about budget, for budgeting and such.
I don't know why they're asking to pay for this. They got more money than everybody.
Yeah, yes, they do.
That's how they keep it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure I don't think I have time to.
No, I don't either.
School calendars, our next item is school calendars moving forward on time.
Yes, we kind of, I felt started early, but Terry thought we started at a good time. So we're still trying to get information from the school.
You haven't gotten that yet?
We got a little bit. I have not got any feedback from the teachers that Barb reached out to, so I'm waiting on that part. Unless he's reached out to Terry, but I don't think so. Because I'm also got to check with Jennifer at Dovenmeyer, because I'd rather for them to send any pictures to straight to Dovenmeyer because the quality is better on
Yeah.
pictures. And then we're moving forward, at least starting it. So that's a good thing. And then I'll keep up with that with Terry from Brazil Marketing.
I told the superintendent and one of the school board members that they're gonna have to pay at least half of it.
I thought they said they would. I thought.
Yeah, well, they haven't definitely say yeah, but I'll just let them know that this is the way it's gonna be. I mean, last year, we made a mistake and we paid for a majority of it. This year, they're gonna have to pay for half of it, because that is a school
That is a
calendar.
school, it's based on their school year with all their
Absolutely.
dates.
Yep. And just about all the pictures are from the school too.
Yeah.
So, Dave's doing all the work.
Trying to gather all the information and
We need to get more pictures of Johnny and the road crew.
That's right.
Don't know where he went.
He's gone.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. Coldiron?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes. Everybody had a great 4th of July
Thank you for
holiday
your time.
coming up.